I'm Ronald Pasika, and this is my self-assessment speech. So my self-assessment speech is on my informative speech. So when I was doing my informative speech, I gathered my information by looking at smaller previous presentations I've done for another class, for classes that are on campus for college and other classes for high school. So I use ChatGPT, which is not really a good thing, but I use it as a reference. So I used it for examples of how to present it and how to make it better than the other presentations I have done for college and high school. So then I gathered this outline format and included the information on what should be included. After that, I then expanded into details I wrote to other slides that could be useful. Then I looked up a statistic since that is what the textbook and the TED Talks book said to do, just to kind of like draw away the attention, just not for a little bit, but not for too long, because that would be a bad thing. After gathering all the details I needed, all I needed was a thesis statement. Now, the thesis statement should come way before all the other details come into play, but I could not think of a thesis statement. So all I did was the opposite way around. So do my details and then my thesis statement. So then I also used ChatGPT again to kind of do some little bit of research on the thesis statement. And right when I got a good idea of what to do, I then summarized everything that ChatGPT had to say and then all the details I provided into one. So the reason why I did obesity was because of two things. One of them was my younger second cousin and my major. Since obesity can be related to physical education, it is important for people to live healthier lives to have the many benefits that a normal average human being does. The other reason was my second cousin, who's younger than me, grew up loving eating food and exercising. The only problem is once he started eating food, he would eat way too much of it, which would not be good because his parents then had to come over and physically take the food away from him and then lecture him on how he's going to get fat. He said he was not going to get fat, but eventually, months later, he got really fat to the point where he had to go to the doctor with his parents, and he was really close to being obese. He is overweight, which is not really good. So his parents have tried telling him to exercise, but he wouldn't exercise. He would only do the things he would love to do for exercise, which is pretty much just for like 30 minutes at most, which was really not good. And they have tried doing other programs with him for exercise, but he did not enjoy it, and it was just way too much money. So the heart of speech, the hardest part of the speech was delivering it. So when I practiced it, I knew I was saying it correctly, and I did not stutter at all, which is a good thing. I also read it at my normal pace, which is also a good thing. But here's when the problem is came up to play. Once I went up and started presenting it, I got a little bit too nervous and I started speaking fast. Once I was speaking fast, it all just led downhill at that point because then I started stuttering and I had a harder time saying what I was trying to say in context to the audience. The other hardest thing was practicing the dress rehearsal, so pretty much kind of like this, but the only problem is I had to redo many videos, which was not really a good thing, and that was very frustrating and angered me, and I had to do 20 plus videos. So after looking back on the presentation awareness, there are a few things that I would like to change. One of them being the formatting of the slideshow. So my formatting of the slideshow, there are things that I forgot to include, and there are other things that just were a little bit way too fast for me to handle with a presentation. So I wish if I changed the formatting up to either slowing it down or just keeping it slightly slower or slightly faster, that way I could keep up with it, that would have been nice. Second thing was my delivery. So my delivery could have been much slower. If I ran the words on the presentation in a much slower pace, it would have been easier for me to present it to the rest of the class. The third thing, which I mentioned before, my thesis statement, if I included that beforehand and then did the ideas, I would not be using ChatGPT as a resource and I would be using my own brain as a resource. So that is my self-assessment speech.